Welcome back, everybody, to TV 15, Muskogee Rougher Football. I'm your host, Bill Huddleston, along with the coach of the Roughers, Rafe Watkins. And, Coach, I know you've been doing this for over 20 years, but last Friday night's opponent, Tulsa Washington, in my 40-plus years of broadcasting, I don't remember a team with as much speed as what I saw at every position for Brad Caleb's Hornets of Booker T.
No, I mean, long time ago when I was at Alva, we played Millwood when they had the Woods brothers and some of those guys, and I thought that was the fastest team I'd ever seen. But by far the last week, and even faster than last year's and the year before when they had Justice Hill, just tremendous speed everywhere, which we talked about it. I said that their nose guard, was their 260 pounds that could run with our running backs, and you saw him several times out on the perimeter making tackles on our running backs and wide receivers. So they have tremendous speed. It probably will be in the highlights, but Jimmy Coleman's one of our fastest kids. He breaks a run there in the second quarter that most of the time on anybody else we play, we're going to score with it. He's out in front of them, and two of them can't gain on him, but all of a sudden Dax Hill comes from, and I watched that thing. He started 12 yards back, and I think the run was 55 yards. So within 55 yards, he had caught him, and that's when Jimmy broke his collarbone. Also, so it's just a terrible situation for him. But it was they were just an extremely fast football team, and they kept taking their shots. They liked that one-on-one matchup, which we're going to do the same thing with Speedy on people. But they probably took 20 shots in the first half. I think they hit 2 of them. But the thing is, when they hit 2 of them, that's 14 points. And so, you got to keep throwing it. And they did the right thing with man coverage. But we did a pretty good job. But there was a couple of times they did catch them behind us.
Well, certainly the walls came tumbling down in a hurry, because through the first quarter and a half, it's still a nothing ball game. Then within a period of about 4.5 minutes, all of a sudden Booker T's found a way to score 4 times.
It's 28-6. They have the one play drive where they hit the home run ball. We turn around and then we get hit from behind. It's an interception, but it was more of a fumble than anything. But they take it back to the house, score again. We go down and score, and then they have another one play drive. And so, they could score in bunches with that type of speed, and it got away in a hurry. I was proud in the second half the way we fought back some, but I'm sick of saying that fighting back. We need to have that same mentality at the start and get out there and jump on early. And we did. We played really well. Defensively for the first quarter and a half, we played about as well as we could. They had nothing running. Once they started hitting some of those passes, and then they loosened us up a little bit, then to start the second half, then we didn't slide over one time in the first play of the second half. They bust about a 75-yarder run play against us. So they have they're very dangerous, because again they can put 4 kids out there on the outside that can blow by anybody, and then when you start to try to help out with that, then they have a good enough running back that he can make you pay also. So they're a very good football team. Again, I thought we did some good things against them, but not enough.
Well, let's take a look at some of those good things that Coach was talking about in our highlight package for the week, and we can roll our video. Coach, here's just what you were talking about with the defense, and now the offense going to work.
Yeah, here's a catch. I believe that's Devin Hillman maybe across the middle there. And Devin had another great game, and we'll talk more about Devin here in a little bit. Defensively, like I said, in that first half, we were flying around. They couldn't get anything running, but as they got better about opening stuff up, then their running game took over in the second half. And I think we tired a little bit in there. But just again, we're flying around. There's, I believe, Davion with one of his sacks.
Right.
Pass, that's a good catch, little back shoulder throw, and Mays catching that.
And just too many roughers for the
There's
quarterback to
Davion
escape.
with another sack. Here's Jimmy's run again. You look, he's out there, and and then you can see these legs coming from behind, and all of a sudden, he just has such a gap. And then when they go down, that's when Jimmy broke his collarbone. I hate it for him, not just because of it's going to hurt us some there, but then also great catch here after the run by Devin Hillman. Good pass by Jacob. Here's Kyrie coming in, backup of Coleman. He'll be our starter this week. Him and Christian will both be getting time in there. And I think was that Mays or was that Devin again? I think we'll be seeing Devin come up here in a little bit on a catch. This may be it right here in the second half. Yeah, where he just keeps the wheel. This is when it's 42-14, I think, for not to say it's over, but this is what effort. That play right there is what I want everybody to see. And our team, we tried to show it's play 135 on the huddle, And just Devin's will to win and competitiveness, and Speedy making a great play and competing right there to make it there. At this point, it's 42-21. We had the kickoff that we actually get back. They high pooch, and we were able to recover. Mathis Givens recovers it, and we couldn't go down and make anything out of it. End up getting a pick on it, and get it to 42-28, and that doesn't sound like a big deal, but it's 1 point less. It's 14 points instead of the maximum 15, and in that, who knows on going down through there. Big thing for us is we just got to win the next 3 ball games, or 2 out of the next 3 ball games we're in. We win the next 3, and we're at least third. Not ideal. We wanted to have something for home. We wanted to be district champions again. That's not going to happen. And now then we've got to set our sights on making the playoffs, because again, that's no guarantee. I mean, we've still got, yes, the lower end of the conference or of the district to play. We've got most tough ones, but this week's a big game for many reasons, and we'll talk about it here a little bit later.
You bet. Sand Springs will be the opponent for this Friday night, but when we come back, one of the guys you saw creating havoc in the defensive line, slowing down the running game of Booker T, was a young sophomore by the name of Davion Williams. We'll talk about him when we return. That after this timeout on TV 15. Welcome back on TV 15, Rougher Football, here with Coach Rafe Watkins. I'm Bill Huddleston, and Coach, the guy between us is making his mark in the defensive front line.
He is. Davion is just a sophomore. Brought him up last year as a freshman for a couple of games. He had a little depth, and it's just tough to get a freshman into the trenches with there's a lot of difference between a 15-year-old and an 18-year-old in there. But this year he's done a great job. Had a great summer. Ended up, what'd you squat, 520?
Yes, sir.
Is his max, and for a young kid, that's an incredible squat. And strong young man, runs well, and has done a good job of growing up a lot this year. And by far had his best game of the year the other night. Had 7 tackles, and I believe in that there was also 2 sacks. So just had a tremendous game for us last week against Booker T.
Davion Williams, one of the members of the defensive front line for the Muskogee Ruffers. Just how fast was the action last Friday night, Davion?
I think by far that's probably one of the fastest teams we've ever played. It was unbelievable. It was kind of hard keeping up their running back, chasing him down from behind. I was glad I had all my other teammates there to help me with those tackles.
All right, Coach talked about getting those sacks. How much does that rev up your motor? How excited do you get? Tell me about that.
Being a sophomore, those would be my first 2 sacks of the season. It was just unbelievable, just being able to actually get there before everybody else.
Exactly, and he's pretty easy to spot when he gets there, Coach, because when he comes with force.
He does, and he's still got a lot of growing to do. He's probably about 220, 225 right now.
Yes,
that's not the biggest guy in the world to be on the defensive line, but his quickness helps out, and again, his strength.
Davion, he was talking about powerlifting this summer. You said you squat
520.
520. Coach, I can't imagine squatting. That's me and you plus someone.
Maybe.
Yeah. But, tell me, how do you manage to get that taken care of?
When I was younger, I used to lift a lot of heavy things. My stepdad helped me with a lot of stuff like that, lifting center blocks, just stuff like that, lift stuff around the house.
It's obviously working, Coach, because he's powerlifting some of those running backs that try to come through the middle.
He is, and this spring, he'll get with Coach Sexton, and we're actually going to have our powerlifting team this year, and he'll get into that, and he'll even get stronger. By the time he's a senior, honestly, there's no reason why he's not squatting around 650, which is just an unreal amount of weight.
Now, I've talked to other members of the defensive line, Michael Buchan and Big Mike, and always like to find out what they like to eat. So as a sophomore in the middle of that defensive line, what do you like to eat besides opposing running backs?
Well, man, I love chicken, though.
Loves chicken.
I love chicken.
All right. Now let's bring it to the academic side. Tell me about your favorite class here and your favorite teacher.
My favorite class is English, and my teacher is Miss Lamplow. I like her because she, believes in us, and she's fighting every day to encourage us to do things higher than what we think we can do. And I really appreciate her for doing that.
Well, that's the type of spirit that the Ruffers need, not only in the classroom, but also on the field. It looks like this guy's got a good dose of it.
Without a doubt, and he's just going to continue to get better the next couple of years.
You bet. Davion Williams, our guest here in this segment. When Coach and I come back, we'll take a spotlight on this week's opponent, the Sandites of Sand Springs. That after this timeout on TV 15. Welcome back on TV 15. Bill Huddleston along with the coach of the Muskogee Ruffers, Rafe Watkins. And, Coach, okay, now Bixby's behind you. Booker T's behind you, and the third of the 3 giants in the district, Sand Springs, coming up this Friday night. Add to that, it's on the road.
It is, and it's strangely enough, it's the only team we have not beaten the district. Everybody always thinks about Bixby and Booker T when you naturally think of this district. We've beat both of those teams in the past. We are 0 against Sand Springs, and I believe Coach Blankenship was. I think it's been 6 years or 7 since Muskogee's beat Sand Springs, and I'm not saying that's unacceptable, but it's with our speed and stuff, we should be able to take care of this. And we had it last year. We had a few injuries during the course of the game. We went flat. We had to regain. We get the lead. They go back down. They score late, and then they go for 2, and that's when all craziness took place on the 2-point conversion that makes the highlights of ESPN and everything else that we've had to hear for a year. That was a tough loss. That really was last year. Even though we already had the district more or less, we felt like sewed up because they still had Booker T and Bixby to go, and we felt like that both of those teams would beat them, and they did. And with us beating those 2 teams last year, we were district champions. But this year it's a whole different deal. They're sitting at 2-0. They've beat Sapulpa and Ponca City. We've lost. We're 0-2 or 1-2, and we've lost to Booker T and Bixby. So we've got those 2 giants out of the way. But this is a big game for us. Again, this is probably, and it's not a guarantee, but more than likely, the winner's at the worst 3rd, and the loser is going to, in our case, we've got to win one of those last 2 games to get 4th place then. And I know Sapulpa's a much improved team, and so we just got to go in and take it one game at a time. But we've got this. This is a huge game for us. They're a big physical team. They got the best running back in the district in Peyton Scott. He's a state champion wrestler. He's averaging right around 200 yards a game rushing. It's not to take anything away from Sand Springs' line because they're probably the 2nd or 3rd best line we thought. But this type of kid, if he was behind Bixby's line, he'd probably average over 300 yards a game. He's, again, a state champion wrestler, got great balance and good speed also, strong, hard to bring down, low center of gravity. And the Sand Springs team, you go back to the wrestling. I think last year they were state dual champions and state champions. And I think there's 13. Is there 13 weight classes? And I think 11 of their kids' weight classes also played football. So they've got a toughness. You're not going to go down through there and see athletes like you see at Booker T or linemen like you see at Bixby. But they are just a bunch of tough kids that rally to the ball on defense. They fight their hearts out on offense. So we've got to go over there with that same mentality. We've got to fight to the end. We lost a few more kids. It keeps every week we talk about. Good news is we got back Carrington Ashley for this week, and we also got Marcus back. So that should help us some, especially defensively. But we lost a couple on our offensive line. We're going to make a few changes there. We probably got a little more athletic on our offensive line than what we were. But the concern still is the depth part of it. I hate having to have big guys going both ways. But we were going to do that anyway in the playoffs, and we just started early because right now we are in kind of a win and go home type of deal.
Yeah,
it's
really
a playoff atmosphere.
Become a playoff atmosphere, and I really think it's one where we find out the true heart of this year's football team. What you're going to do when you've been punched to the mat, are you going to get up and battle in the final 10th, 11th, and 12th round and make this thing happen?
That's exactly right, and I promise you, Sand Springs will punch you in the mouth. They're a very, very physical team.
Well, we'll see what happens on Friday night as the Ruffers do travel to Sand Springs. It is a 7 o'clock kickoff, so make your plans accordingly. Allow for time to get through the Tulsa traffic at rush hour, but be there on time for kickoff. That'll be Friday night at 7 o'clock, Muskogee at Sand Springs. If for some unforeseen reason you can't make it, of course, remember you can always see the action on Ruffer TV. For head coach Rafe Watkins and Davion Williams, I'm Bill Huddleston saying so long for now. See you Friday night at Sand Springs, and remember, it's always a great day to be a Ruffer.